Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of How to Scale an Agency. I'm on with the Peter Applebaum and his company, the Agency Accelerators, which focuses on helping more agencies land large enterprise clients, as well as also focusing on getting predictable lead generation for their agency. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Peter. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lucas. And I'm here. The beautiful back you see is my fellow owner and director, Susan Workner.
Hello.
We do this business together. She has also an extensive agency experience.
I love it. That's always really cool to see. And I think, one of the coolest parts about agencies is a lot of them are very, very good partnerships form out of it. Like I have my business partner I've had for 5 years, 50-50 ownership of the business, and we work really well together. I think if you have a business partner in any capacity, it's always going to help your business grow faster. So it's super awesome to see you guys do this successfully. So tell us a little about the Agency Accelerators program, what you guys do. I wanted to have you guys on the show because I personally am very interested in this when it comes to landing enterprise clients. I've worked with a few, and I want to kind of make the central point of the show around how agencies could land $1 billion client in theory, unicorn or maybe $100 million revenue plus company. Like, how can they land these types of businesses? That's very interesting to a lot of people.
Well, and it's actually something that it's also something that a lot of agencies don't know about. They're great when it comes to much smaller clients like the local dentist or beautician. And I know there are many agencies that want to go bigger than that. But it's a very different mindset, and it's a very different business development method to getting those enterprise clients. And look, there is a range. When you're talking about larger clients, it could be a small corporate. A smaller corporate can still give you $1 million a year, whereas a large corporate, it might be difficult getting $50,000 a year out of them. So we really do talk to our clients about really traversing that range of size of different corporates. But those big corporates, they do have a different way of thinking and acting, and it's critical that agencies understand that and work within the way they have to work to get those types of clients.
So let's get strategic. A lot of people on the show, obviously the title is How to Scale an Agency. A lot of people on the show take the strategies and the key insights from it and apply it directly to their agency. So if you had to walk through maybe 1, 2, 3 steps in a row of what somebody would do to actually land an enterprise client, on your website, I see the headline, which I love. It says one corporate client alone can make you $50K to $1 million every year. I can confirm this. I have not closed $1 million per year client yet, but I actually have interviewed people on the show who take $1 million per year clients, and they only take 12 per year. So I can confirm that this is something that you can definitely do. Tell us how somebody would do that step by step if there's like top 3 points.
Well, I've got the boss here, so she can take over.
Yeah. The top 3 points. I think the top 3 points we always find with our when working with our clients is number one, that as Peter said earlier, less than 10% have an ongoing business development strategy. So every agency, and we're creatives. We love creating, we love helping our service businesses. So I think the key is to really think a little bit more structured, be more structured about your business, and think, how am I getting predictable revenue and sales leads week in, week out? I think that's probably the biggest headache that most agency owners have. So I guess the number one thing is to think about, how am I going to implement that ongoing business development strategy? That's key, number one. And I guess how we help and how you should think about it is, what helps you very much is understanding your niche. Mm-hmm. What's your niche? What problem are you really solving, and making sure that you go for it, go for that niche. And I guess the third one.
Well, what's the opportunity? Because it's one thing saying, okay, I'm going to concentrate on fast food restaurants, QSR restaurants. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, what is the opportunity? Maybe you don't have a solution that they're looking for. So we always say, you got to find your starving crowd. Our starving crowd is agencies, because most agencies are really good at helping their clients build their businesses and their brands, but not so good at doing it themselves. It's like we always say, the dentist children have the worst teeth. So what we're about is ensuring that you've got to identify that niche. Where is your starving crowd? What's the opportunity? What's the problem you're helping to solve? And then understanding what your communication strategy is. Because a lot of us go, okay, we just got to go on LinkedIn. You've got to send out a bunch of messages. We've got to do content or spam the market with a whole bunch of emails and sit back and wait, wondering why nothing happens. So we're about ensuring doing it strategically. This is a marketing program as much as it is a sales program. And it's very important to think of it that way, because as I say, most agency owners are very good marketers.
Yeah.
Saved by the bell. Most agency are very good marketers. But now what we're saying is we are very experienced marketers. Let's work together with our client. We work together with our clients to ensure it's all focused on getting that regular lead flow. Because the reality is, and this is a big thing that agency owners need to remember, clients need you. They absolutely need you. It's just a nice thing to say. It's like they need passionate, marketing-oriented agency owners and managers who can help them to solve their marketing problems.
100%. And, when I look at the agencies that are in the platform, I actually do know one of them right off the bat. I know Tim Keene with Loop Club. Now, you don't have to tell us exactly how every single one of these companies gets these enterprise clients, but, and if you want, maybe what could be helpful just from a strategic level is to talk about maybe one case study of somebody landing an enterprise client. Feel free to omit the name of the enterprise client and also the company, but like just in terms of the step-by-step things that they did to get that enterprise client, could you maybe talk about some of the like main things that they did to get that? And if you talk about it in terms of just one case study, it might make it a little more clear for people, because I think you guys have so many, and feel free to you don't have to say the names, but just like what did they do to get, and then maybe even like the size, like was it in the like 50,000, 100,000, maybe what even the biggest company or contract you've had people close before. It would be interesting too, because most people aren't playing in the $50K to $1 million ballpark in terms of contract size. So that would be interesting to see.
Sure.
Well, I guess we have a couple of examples, but one that comes off, which shows you that even in adversity, having a strategic business development program works. We had a client down in Melbourne, in Australia, and this is during lockdown. You probably know Melbourne was the lockdown capital of the world. I don't think any country, any city in the world had more lockdowns than Melbourne in Australia. Right. And so our client was a small agent. She only had I think three full-time staff and some contractors. She couldn't even go to the office. So she was like 10 meters from office. She was not allowed to go into the office, had to stay at home. So she was desperate for clients, obviously. And really what we helped her to do is we actually helped her with a positioning statement for her agency. She'd only been around for 2 or 3 years, 2 years, I think. So we helped her with the positioning. We helped her with niching what she was doing. We gave her obviously mentoring and coaching, which she needed during that downtime, obviously.
Yes. And support.
And mental, yes, exactly. It was also some support which you really needed, because, all of us, being shut down was a terrible experience for every single one of us. But what we have to do is she utilized the strategy of, a combination of like LinkedIn, email, strategically LinkedIn, email marketing and outreach. And she landed within 6 weeks of working with us. She landed it was a $65,000 contract with a Canadian company. So imagine all the way from Melbourne, she landed a Canadian company due to her outreach.
Yeah. And that was only initially.
And that was initially, but after that, she also landed more clients, also in the US and also in Australia. Right. So that's one thing we'd say with our case studies. We help clients not just get US clients, but some clients, nowadays Zoom allows you to be global. If you've got a great niche and you don't need to physically be there, most of us don't, think global.
And the key point to remember with those clients that our client brought in, those numbers that Susan mentioned, they're just initially, as in when I say initially, that's just the first project of the first 3 or 4 months. They're recurring. Right. So these can be, as there can be millions of dollars over the years with just doing simple outreach. And another strategy we use a lot of, and I know you're a big fan of it as well, Lucas, is webinars. We're ramping up our webinar strategy. Every time we do a webinar, and we're doing one next week, we get clients. And every time we put on a webinar, we get more and more signups, because it gives you the chance to spend an hour with that person. You impart value. You don't make it salesy. You just impart a lot of value and make people think, gosh, well, this is something that we need to do. I don't know where to start. We need to speak to this agency.
Right. Well, so one thing I want to do, because I think I've had a lot of companies on the show who do lead generation. And I talk about a lot of lead generation strategies and things like that. I think one thing that'd be helpful for the listeners is, what is different when you try to do lead generation for enterprise clients, like when you're reaching out to enterprise clients versus small businesses? Let's start there, because I think that's really where I see what you guys do being so powerful? Because I know it's a huge difference. I'm actually a little weak on this because most of my clients are SMBs. I do have some large clients I've worked with, but most that's been happenstance. I don't think I've ever had a concentrated strategy to go get these large companies. So what is different about it though? Like, what would you do differently when targeting the enterprise versus targeting a small business?
Well, I think the key to targeting the larger businesses, you have to remember you're targeting very different people to agency owners and SMBs. Yeah. You know, SMBs are still, most of them are, you know, you're dealing with the founder, for example. And when you're dealing with enterprise, the larger corporates, you're dealing with executives who are, number one, risk averse. I would say that's the biggest difference. They are conservative, they are risk averse. And when you approach them, they have to feel that you are really the trusted, safe pair of hands they can work with, that's going to make sure, A, they don't lose their job, which is their main, they're not worried about revenue. Like, you know, us SMBs, small business owners, we care about revenue. They don't care about revenue. That doesn't matter to them because they're getting their salary month in, month out, but they care about losing their job. So I guess when you approach them, you have to be very strategic.
It's a different mindset.
It's a different mindset, very sophisticated in your approach to them. Not one that's difficult, just has to be, you know, thought through. And make sure, as I said, you build the trust. I guess that's the key, is building that trust factor with individuals. It's all relationship building, of course, with those individuals in larger companies, that they'll turn around and say, well, actually, Lucas is someone I've heard so much from him. I've seen his thought leadership is fantastic. He's a Kendrick Lamar fan. We're on the same page. We love it.
Yes.
We're going to talk to Lucas. That's where you want to get to, but it is a different mindset.
And that's why we also call it it's a sales and marketing program. So when we talk to how does one build the relationship, it's like we're building a brand here, like brand owners who we're dealing with as agencies. It's the same way. We're building up a relationship. We're building up that awareness, the trust. That's where content is so important, but it's not just throwing out random content for the sake of it. It's building that trust over a period of time, as opposed to we do SEO. Have you got any SEO work? Which is what 99% of agencies do, which is awesome for your listeners and for your members, because they're not going to do that anymore. They're going to focus on how can I build a relationship with this person, and most importantly, what's relevant and of interest to them, and what do they need? Focus on them, not on us, which sounds like marketing 101, but it's astounding how the vast majority of people don't do it.
Yeah, and I think on that note, one thing that would also be very helpful is, let's just get one thing straight. Our agencies that are just getting started and maybe are doing less than $10,000 per month in revenue, are they even able to get these enterprise customers? Do you think it's even something that's worth pursuing? Because again, on that trust piece, if maybe they just haven't built up the portfolio, it's a bigger risk. So do you even suggest that smaller agencies pursue enterprise clients, or do you think that they should wait until they've already built up a book of business, a nice website, a solid brand, and all this stuff before even starting down that route?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we agree.
Absolutely.
Both of us. Yeah. Yes, we found, like, we actually have had literally solopreneurs who had maybe half a dozen outsourced, contractors they worked with, freelance contractors, and they have won small, we're talking about small clients then, so small corporates, shall we say. So you don't go for the Coca-Cola and the Nikes, obviously, but there's so many small corporates that you can go for that have really good budgets, and having, they turn over a few $1 million, they might have a decent sized marketing budget. And like, for example, I'll give you a case study. We had a client in the US, actually in Omaha, Nebraska. And he had worked with a lot with fintechs, which is quite unusual. There are not many fintechs in Omaha, but he had reached out and worked with quite a few fintechs in San Diego. So the fintechs, a lot of them had smaller budgets. So he really wanted to get something in the finance area that was bigger. We helped him put his strategy together, and he started sending out the LinkedIn messages that we've crafted, helped him with email marketing, and a newsletter, an email newsletter. One of these email newsletters hit the desk, or the email, the best desktop of a client, a marketing manager that actually had a pitch going. He actually invited him to pitch for the business, for the bank, and he ended up winning that. winning that pitch. And that was a transformative piece of business. So that was like a $250,000 business for him. And for him, that was really transformative.
It's important to remember, again, this is a mistake we all make. We're also transfixed with ourselves, our businesses, what we're doing, how we're feeling. The clients don't care about us. They don't care about our agency. It's harsh and brutal, but as we know, that's just reality. And as long as we get over that, what do they say? Go get a dog, hug your dog, because the dog's going to love you unquestioningly. But when it comes to business and clients, they really don't care about you. Forming a relationship with them over time, they will care about you. But initially, all they care about is how this agency, this person can help me to solve my problems. And often the bigger agencies, the more established ones, it's just a numbers game for them. You're just another number. But for the smaller ones, if you can go in there, form a relationship, a connection with the appropriate person, be at the right place, the right time, with the right offer, it can make a big difference. So that's why we often say, go the tier ones like the Nikes and the McDonald's of this world and the AT&Ts are great. We all have to win those. But if you start with the 2 and 3 clients, their needs are just as much as they have, and you can actually make more money from them than from the tier ones.
100%. That's really interesting. So let's get into something that I think a lot of people are probably curious about is, let's talk about some of the larger clients you've helped companies land. You don't have to say the names, of course, but like, could you just start off by saying, like, what's the largest contract that you're aware of that you've helped somebody close? And again, no need to name names, but just in terms of size. And then also, the reason I'm asking this is because I kind of want to know, like, how did that happen? Like, was it just the same strategy you just mentioned, or was there like something specific that happened? I mean, I'd love to hear that. Like, what do you have a sense? I mean, it sounds like it's been, you said 250,000 was one, but like, has anyone been like above $500,000 or towards $1 million contracts and things like that?
Yep, absolutely. No, we actually have a client who was very big he worked with small telcos in his regional area, like helping the telco distributors. And he was based, I think he was actually in Los Angeles, quite a few LA companies. So again, we started the same thing with a strategy. And don't forget, I guess the point is with the strategy with agencies, it's not just one thing you do, it's everything has to be, it's like finance. Like no one, when you go to your financial advisor, they always say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Same with the outreach strategy. So you're going to be doing a number of different things, reaching out on different platforms, but it has to be laser focused on your audience, on what you want to get, the niche that you're getting and who you're trying to talk to. So helping him, we helped him with targeting some of the bigger telco companies. And as you know, a lot of these big telcos have many divisions. So the big corporates also have many, many divisions. And sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, but there's lots of divisions in them. So we helped him target AT&T, and he ended up getting a $750,000 client in AT&T. That was over 12 months, but he's been working I think we helped him 2 years ago. He's still working with AT&T. So the recurring revenue, as I said, it might say, and the secret here is the first project he did with AT&T was worth only $10,000. He did a $10,000 small pilot project with AT&T with this marketing manager in that role. And they got along great, trusted him. The $10,000 project was a bit of a loss leader, to be honest.
Try before you buy.
Try before you buy. And the guy said, you know what, you guys are fantastic. And it built into a $750,000 client that year, and it's increased for the second year. So that's probably a very good example for you.
And I think something that a lot of people are worried about when it comes to growing their book of business with enterprise customers is they just don't know where to start, because they're so used to pitching SMBs around like, anywhere from $2,000 a month to $10,000 a month. But to go beyond that is uncharted territory. So like, what kind of services can you actually deliver someone at that price point? Like, what are typically your clients delivering? I mean, is it like Google Ads management? Is it, content production? Is it like, what are they doing at that scale in the marketing space specifically? Because you're helping these agencies. What kind of services are the ones that are being sold with these big of contracts?
Well, I think some of them are media, so media agencies. That's definitely one of them, I think, because the media agencies need a lot of help. And they usually, look, their margins smaller, but they have big budgets, obviously.
Right.
PR is another one. Public relations is another one that works really, really well with bigger corporates. So you can do a lot of good work and have a great retainer as a PR agency. What else? Some of them are just digital marketing, but we help them to focus on that part of digital marketing that will work for the corporates they're wanting to go after, the larger clients. So
the strategy pieces.
The strategy piece. So in other words, if you're a digital marketing agency, you don't want to go into a corporate and try and sell them your 10 different services, such as website and SEO and SEM and etc.
Right.
What we do is you've got to pick something that, as I said, that's why keeping an eye on which customers you would love to work with, and that is your sweet spot, and then offer them at least a bundle of a small segment of your services, but make sure it's really focused and you're going to deliver on that. That to us is the key of getting into a bigger client.
Because it's kind of like a lot of agencies go and they say, what is your need, what's your budget, and we'll give it to you. And look, obviously, particularly in the early days, that's tempting, and we did that back in the day when we started our agencies. But I think the success truly comes from, what do they say? There's the riches in the niches. Was that Dan Kennedy said that, I think? So it's really coming back to, we often say to our clients, and certainly initially at least, focus on a niche. Where is your greatest strength? Where is that starving crowd that you can really harness their need and understand what their needs are, and really provide it's almost like an unquestionable offer. Just give them an offer they can't refuse. Go all Godfather on. And it's like,
And I guess I've got another, if you wanted a case study, I mean, just examples, I guess.
Who doesn't? We all like case studies.
I guess another example of the client we work with, they just did SEO. That was it. SEO was their niche, which is, as you know, is a great niche, very technical, but it's a great niche. And they were serving a lot of SMBs. They had like 300 clients or something crazy. There's a lot of SMB clients that they were working with. But they wanted to get to, but they realized managing 300 clients is great, but, there's only a certain limit you can do it. So basically we help them to narrow down what is the main industries and the industry they work with. And they did a lot of retail. Obviously retail is very big for SEOs, obviously, and e-commerce companies. So we said, why don't you go for some of the larger fashion e-commerce companies? So we ended up helping them with their strategy, and they did. They landed some bigger e-commerce companies to do SEO for them. The budgets were much bigger. It was like 20, 30,000 a month instead of 1,000 or 2,000 a month type of thing, 20, 30,000 a month. But what they also did, and this is part of what we say, niching can be a really good start. Once they got those clients on board, they then started building their websites, because they said, listen, your website is not really good. We need to do a much better, you should have a much better website to make sure our SEO is working better on your website. So they started doing websites and content then as well. So that's another way, as we said, that's how you do we call it the Trojan horse strategy.
Nice. Is that trademark?
Get in there and spread.
That's it, trademark.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. No one's ever heard of that.
That's right.
Look, another
awesome.
To that point, and really reinforcing the value of relationships, we had another client who formed a good relationship with this prospect in the building space, and they were launching this is a multi-billion-dollar company, and they were launching a new brand, a new building products brand. And our client went in and had a chat with this person who he'd been forming a relationship with for a while, using the strategies we talk about. And the client said, "Oh, look, our client thought, okay, this guy just does social media." And he said, "Okay, well, we'll talk to you about social media once we build our website." It's like, "Oh, who's building your website?" It's like, "Well, haven't appointed them yet." So cut a long story short, he threw his hat in the ring and said, "We do websites." They pitched because it was a big corporate, won the pitch. Guess why they won the pitch? Because they had a very good relationship with the client, with the lead client, who said, "Okay, I want to work with this guy." And as a result, that particular client over the next few years generated, I think, $1.5 million from that client, doing a whole range of things, building apps, websites, social media, a whole range of different things. So it's important that relationship is at the heart of everything. It's not about SEO. It's not about building websites. It's about that relationship and trust.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, it's really interesting to hear these different case studies. I think I am definitely eager to dive into this a lot more on our AMA coming up next week. And I think this will actually come out before our AMA next week. So anybody who's watching this on YouTube or listening to it on the pod, feel free to comment below or hit us up if you have any questions on things that you might want answered or asked on the AMA, please make sure you're there so you can ask questions on things that can be improved for your company in terms of how to get more enterprise clients. And thank you both for being on the show. We really appreciate it. I have some questions I typically ask agency owners. I save for the end, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on them as well. And I'll kind of, make them more curated for you. So one question I typically ask is, how would an agency 10x their revenue in the next 12 months? Let's say it's a $1 million agency. Let's say $100,000 agency. How would they go from $100,000 to $1 million a year? Would you recommend? What's the best strategy to do that? Is it one big enterprise client, or is it something else?
Well, that's true. That'll solve that problem.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Usually it'd be hard. If you really are only small, then to get one big enterprise client won't do it, because you're going to have to build up the smaller niching, right? But I think the key would be to get that small, as we said, get into the door of the corporate clients, have your strategy in place. Of who you want to target, what are the services you're going to offer that target, those smaller corporates. Have a package that you think is going to be useful. I mean, it could be like a $10,000 strategic package, could be just a strategy development, for example. And make sure you put that business development program on autopilot. That's the key. Is that has to be an always on business development program, week in, week out, and that even if you and your team are busy, or even if you and you don't have a team, if you're busy, that needs to be going even while you sleep. And that's part of the secret to connecting your business.
That's really solid. Actually, this is teaching me a lot. And I'll actually just highlight this point, because I think for me, I've had opportunities to close these large clients before. And what we, I think, maybe did wrong, now that I think about it, is we definitely led with guns blazing all the time. It was just always like, we're going to do all this stuff for you, and it's going to cost a ton of money. But, if you just treat them like actual, businesses that are looking to get the best price and the best offer, sometimes, like you said, sometimes it makes sense just to hit them with something that's you can over deliver on for a lower price point, impress them a lot, and then come out front on any bidding process. That way in the future, they know exactly who to go to for scale. So that's really interesting. That's my biggest takeaway here for myself, and maybe the audience thinks that as well. But that's really, really interesting. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for being on the show. For everybody listening, the Agency Accelerators helps agencies land corporate clients. I know I'm referring a lot of business to them. What's the best way for somebody to work with you? Please feel free to give an offer, some sort of thing to people listening that to make it worthwhile to reach out or to collaborate or what have you.
Well, we're happy to offer anyone who's listening who would like to really have have sort of a strategy session with us. So we normally charge $1,500 for. So we're happy to have the first 20 people who contact us at success@theagencyaccelerators.com. Reach out to us, and we're happy to do it for free. And out of that hour session, we will really help you fine tune where your three biggest corporate opportunities are.
Or you can
I definitely recommend.
Yeah, or you can actually book it on our website.
Or you can go to our website and book it on our website, which is www.theagencyaccelerators.com.
Fantastic. Yeah, I see book now in the top right corner. Definitely recommend people take you guys up on that. That's definitely very interesting. And I know that the biggest reason why I'm going to be promoting this a lot is because when you get into that enterprise space and you start actually working with larger customers, they're less likely to churn, which means that your business model is even more stable and more profitable. And that's really what it's all about. So I definitely recommend everyone go reach out. I don't get a cut on this. I'm giving that as a discount to anybody listening to the community, and also just this offer they mentioned is because it's through me. I'm not getting a cut. So definitely recommend taking them up on it. So thank you so much for being on the show. Everybody listening to it. Again, this is the Agency Accelerators. I'm really glad to have them on. Please reach out to them if you have any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lucas. Thank you so much.